All right. Good evening, everyone, or whatever time you're watching this, as I usually start with. Uh, Today, we're going to talk about some new topics. And by new, I mean extending some of the stuff that we have been talking about with Node, um, and moving more towards backend stuff, which is pretty interesting and will probably be pretty applicable to some of the stuff that you maybe have seen with web apps, especially with dealing with APIs and accessing, placing information, and all that sort of stuff between um, our web apps and some sort of server. And that's essentially going to be the big topic for today, is using Express to sort of um, figure out how we can set up that in such a way that it's not a burden on us on our side writing the backend sort of code. So this first video is just going to be some announcements and things, just to keep in mind as we're going towards shockingly the end of the semester at this point, but as we're getting there, what to sort of expect. So let's move on here. Oops, I have an errant bullet here. All right, so exercise 5 will probably be posted. My sort of timeline has shifted probably by a day a little bit. Today's been kind of a hectic day, but probably Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to post the last exercise. It's going to be similar length to the exercise 4 that I posted last week. More of you testing out that you're able to apply some of the stuff that we talked about in the lecture. Not going to be super long. Give you 2 weeks to do it, but to be honest, you can probably finish it within a day or two. Final exam, in heavy air quotes, that final project is going to be posted in about a week or two, so that you have some time to be able to work on it. I'm also probably not going to have new topics for that last week. I haven't quite decided on what the topic is going to be. As you probably saw in my Piazza post, it'll probably be something small and maybe fun, or just nothing at all, so that you have some time to work on the final exam. So I'll try and see where people are at, and maybe make that last video optional that you can use for your project if you want to, but you don't really have to. And again, it's going to be super open-ended, so it's just applying what we sort of talked about this whole semester, and seeing what you can do with it. Okay, a couple of notes about exercise 4, since I've been getting a lot of questions about it, both in office hours and on Piazza, just to clear up some stuff. First things first, please make sure that you're only making one instance of Cook. And so, for example, if I pull up my examples from last class, yes. I had my raise event class here that extends event emitter. It just has this raise method and a constructor, and I export it down here. And then in my, trying to remember where events example. Yeah. So, in my class that I'm using it and importing it from, so here I'm importing raise, and I'm assigning it to this constant called raise event. Please make sure that you're making only one instance of that raise event at the very top here. So don't have raise event up here and Cook down here, or event handler up here and Cook down here. Just make one Cook at the very top. Pass in the information necessary for that constructor to correctly create that class. And then your handlers, as sort of detailed in the example code that I posted, and then call each of the individual methods to make sure that they work. That's essentially what the workflow should look like. So you should only have one new object every single time. This is because if you make more than one, it sort of divvies them up a little bit based on the objects themselves. So if you have two different classes that have been instantiated to be objects, they have no way to communicate with each other. So if you raise an event here and then try to anticipate it over here, they're not going to be able to communicate with each other. So just make sure you're making only one and call the methods on that one instance. and also attach the handlers to that one instance, all in that one file. All right, what else? For part 2, you can use any of the different ways to render the page with the given instructions. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. It's mostly you just testing out the sort of archaic way of creating a web server. That's the purpose. That's why it's not the bigger grade and point value of that exercise. Third thing, I'm not sure. I did this not in order. I think it was just what came to my head at the time. But going back to part 1, create the handlers before you emit, which I sort of talked about in the example. And last, please come to office hours on Wednesday. I had a couple of takers today. Come to office hours and ask some questions. Even if you need clarification, you just have a quick question. I'm sitting there anyway. I'm not doing anything. It's not like I can plan while I'm sitting there and staring at my screen. I don't know, you might walk or like tune in right when I'm playing some music and singing along. But come on, come chat with me. Let me know what I can do to help. That's what I'm there for. So please feel free to come and ask questions. I think that's about it for just general sort of instructions and announcements. Please keep posting on Piazza as you all have been doing so great. Please make sure any sort of implementation type questions, it's not super relevant for this one because it's pretty straightforward way of grading it. When in doubt, if you think that you need to place some code in Piazza, make the post private or shoot me an email. Either of the two should work so that we can answer your questions. But I think that's about it. So I'll see you in the next video.